All right, today we're going to talk about when the call comes in for somebody that wants to list their home for sale. They're wanting to move, and they've reached out to you through a referral, through a internet lead, possibly through some of your marketing, your flyers, maybe at another listing in the neighborhood, and that call comes into your cell phone, or you're set the appointment. And so before you go on the listing appointment, what do? Right? And so there's a lot of people that are just setting the listing appointment without asking questions. And I think that is a mistake in today's world of real estate. In the past, in a hot moving market, we could get away with that. I don't believe in this market that we're in currently. It's almost a balanced market where you can get away with not asking enough questions, almost pre-qualifying the seller along with getting intel. So when the call comes in, hey, I want to list my house, and you've got to gather some of that intel in order to help them the best. And some of that is setting the appointment that same day or the next morning, if at all possible. We have surveyed agents across the country, along with our own experience in the last 12 months, where if we did not set that appointment within a day and try to show up the same day, then the odds go in not our favor. They go into probably a 30-40% odds of us getting the listing versus the odds at a 75%, maybe 85% of us getting the listing if we can go out on that same day. And the reason being is because sellers have a lot of options these days. And those options today, they all know multiple real estate agents, and there's multiple real estate agents farming their neighborhood. There's multiple real estate agents that have them on drip campaigns. There's multiple real estate agents that they know at work or at church or at their clubs, softball or whatever, PTA or whatever the case may be, their network, their sphere of influence. And the more time that goes on, the more that the sellers are talking to other people, which all have an opinion, and they all have multiple real estate agents themselves. So what I'm saying is, the longer that you go without meeting that client first, the odds go down dramatically of you getting that listing. Now, if you're well branded and you've been farming that neighborhood for 10 years and you've got something going out every 3 or 4 weeks, then you're going to be the neighborhood expert, which is extremely important. And those odds maybe increase a slight, but as soon as they value somebody else's opinion more than that neighborhood expert's, you're going to be pushed off to the side, or at least you're going to have more competition. So I want to share that with you, and to really put pressure on you to set those appointments that same day, if not the next day. So always try to go the same day. That's what we do when we work in FSBOs and expired listings as well. So okay, so let's go into some of the notes that I've written down. Before you go on a listing appointment, let's start creating a list of things that you need to consider, and you guys can develop your own list. I'm just going to give you a guideline, and I'll constantly improve this list as we go. And some of the things that I've done for the last 20 plus years in my career, I want to share them with you today. So the call comes in, hey, I want to sell my home. Great. Now we're going into, this is over the phone, we're going into a gathering intel on who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, why they're selling the house, the home facts, the time frame that they're expecting to sell the home in, where they're moving to is extremely important. When do they need to be there is another important factor there. Who are the decision makers? extremely important. That one is always missed. 90% of the real estate agents miss that before they go on to the appointment, okay? But that's important, because if only one decision maker is there, you're at a disadvantage, and you could probably accomplish all the stuff over the phone or a Zoom call and try to meet their expectations over the phone or Zoom, rather than spend the drive time going over to the house. If they're just doing, intel gathering on how much their home is worth. You have to assume that they've already been on Zillow, they've already been on Trulia, they've already been on Redfin, they've already been on eXp Realty's website, they've been on multiple websites. Potentially, they've been on yours. Potentially, they've Googled you on your social media accounts, and they're doing research that way. They potentially have been on your LinkedIn profile. All of these are extremely important, because they're data that is out there for years that's on you and your services. And my question for you on that, I've done other videos on this, but is it up to date, right? Is that stuff, your profile, your image out there, up to date for today's market? So consider that, because that's part of the application, right, to becoming their listing agent, is they're going to Google that. Whether they've done it prior to this phone call or as soon as you hang up the phone, they're going to do that. So you've got to have a lot of marketing out there. You've got to have your profiles up to date and all the information, your testimonials, all of that ready to go for them, so they can do their own research, and you can send them some of this, all the links as well, right? It's very, very important. I want to talk about verbal confidence, that a lot of people don't do this, but when you're on that phone with a seller, you've got to be asking these questions in order to lead the conversation, and also give the potential client the confidence that you're the right agent for the job of selling their home. It's so important, because if you're not asking questions, how are you going to get all the intel needed to prepare for the listing appointment, right? It's almost impossible. Or you're going to go in to listing appointment blindsided and not prepared for that meeting, and the objections that come up on almost every seller meeting that you're going to have. So during this, after you're asking all these questions, or during when you're asking these questions, I want you to verbally share with them some confidence builder, some success story that you recently had helping a client. So if it's a listing appointment that you're going on, I'd like for you to share the last listing that you sold and how you solved that seller's problem. Every seller has a problem, whether they want to admit it or not, right? And that's not a negative term. This is, the problem is, hey, I own my house and I want to own the house anymore because I want to move to Chicago or whatever they're going to do. And that's okay. So, but we're solving problems. We're bringing solutions in to them and to fix their current situation. And some of the homes that some of the clients that you're going to meet, their homes are paid off. They don't really have a negative situation. They're in a great position to be in because they don't have to take lowball offers. And that's fantastic. Now you've got to bring in some market stats in order to bring them into reality, because they are thinking that their house is perfect and the market is perfect for their house. Well, in fact, even today, we're seeing some declines in some of the markets where it's harder to sell. And I'll give you an example. In the Phoenix area, the Maricopa County to be exact, 4 years ago, okay, so today's 2024, but 4 years ago in September, the beginning of September, there was like 4,000 active listings on the marketplace, in MLS. And today, in 2024, so that's 2020, so 2024, the marketplace has almost 18,000 listings, right, in the Maricopa County. So we have a tremendous amount of inventory compared to 4 years ago. And the prices are still up, right? But that means competition is up, but the sellers are still thinking that it's 4 years ago, right? That they're in complete control and advantage of that. And you stack on interest rates, then I think now we have a recipe of being completely in fantasy land versus reality. Hey, we can still maximize and pull every single dollar for you as a seller, but we're not going to be in this greatest position here. We're still going to get the greatest dollar for the house, but the market has changed from 4 years ago. And I think bringing in the stats in those conversations, depending on how the conversation goes, is important. So know the local market stats. That's for sure. You should be studying the MLS every single day, in my opinion, so you can have intelligent conversations with the people that are wanting to sell in the marketplace that you're serving. But if you don't, you need to at least have that ready to go for when you meet with them in person, or if you're doing a listing presentation on a Zoom call, okay? All right, so the next thing, so we just went over, I want you to tell the story about the successful closing that you just had and that it went smooth, or if a challenge occurred, how you solved that challenge. So we just saw a stat that many deals are falling out of escrow in the last 60 days, right? And we had some. We had 1.1 million, first-time home buyer, 1.1 million fall out of escrow. The guy worked at a tech company in San Diego, and he's going to lose his job in like 60 days, right? He's on the chopping block, unfortunately. Well, that made him so uncomfortable that there's a possibility of him losing his job. He didn't want to move forward with the transaction. And that caused him to say, hey, you know what? I know I paid for the home inspection. I love the house. I love my interest rate, but I'm going to have to put this on the back burner because I'm just not comfortable moving forward. And we said, okay, no problem. Let's get you out of this contract. And we got him out of the contract. And he's thrilled. He'll still be a client of our teams in San Diego, and he'll be a client for life because we helped him with that. But that story is something, one, for a seller to really share with a seller so they understand that there's things changing in the economy. There's things that are out there that are making people cause more stress in the buyers' lives and have fear of moving forward with these big time purchases. And so you have to consider that when you're talking with the seller over the phone prior or during when you're meeting with them. It's super important. Okay, so the next thing, we talked about solving problems and potentially, right, if the deal went great and it went smooth and maybe you sold it in 15 days, maybe you sold it in 30, 45, 60, all of those time frames are okay to share, even if, and this is something that a lot of people don't do, even if you sold that property in 90 to 120 days, okay? Think about this. This is a big tip for a lot of you guys that don't even think this way, right? And I'm going to share with you why I think this way. 90 to 120 days, it's imperative that you share that story, okay? Why? That's ridiculous. Everybody shares 50, I sold in 15 days, or I sold in 7 days, I sold in 1 day. I want to be top producer and sold in 1 day, and I want all the clients to know I'm the greatest and all that stuff. Well, that's okay, and there's a time for that, right? But there's also a time, like today, that you are building confidence that you're going to continuously market that property. You're going to continuously really work hard for those sellers to maximize every dollar. And even if it takes 90 to 120 days, think about how that is perceived on the other side. Now, let me tell you why that's important. Another supporting fact. This is a fact. At one time in my career, I worked for Freddie Mac. I was on the Broker Advisory Council as a direct independent. I was my own company, Solutions Real Estate at the time. I was on the Broker Advisory Council. There was 50 agents across the country that had enough production And I think I had 100 listings with them at the time. That's 100 listings with one client at the time. That wasn't even my top listing client. I think I had B of A. I had 130 listings with them at one point, and so on and so forth. I won't go into that story. But I'm on this broker advisory council. We fly into Dallas, Texas, and we're there for, I think it was a 2-day conference or something like that with the top 50 brokers in the country. And they showed us stats in the marketplace. We would have to do BPOs, broker price opinions, for the clients, and on every single listing that we did, kind of like a CMA, right? And when they pulled the stats and they said, hey, you guys are doing pretty good, but we want you to get better at, these broker price opinions. And we wanted to show you the difference between the average real estate agent, right, and what the appraisers are doing, right? Two different valuations. And then we want you to look at the days on market that we're selling these properties. And then we want you to look at our final sales price along with what we netted with offering closing cost assistance and all that stuff, right? The total net and the total sales price. And those stats were fascinating. Now, a lot of us that were there for a specific purpose, is because they were helping us get better at our job so we can lead our agents. So I had a bunch of agents doing my broker price opinions. I would review probably 10, 15% of them. And then I had staff in order to do them because we were high volume brokers for all the banks during the last recession. And some of the people that we had doing the broker price opinions, pulling the comps, their comps were correct when you viewed the comps this way, right? They're correct. They matched. They made sense. They were model matches, right? They were selling in the 30-day period that what every real estate agent really thinks their job is. No. There's multiple things that you have to think about in order to and ask questions, right? Ask the seller the questions, and that's why time frame is important of the list I kind of went over already, of what their expectations are of selling the property and moving to the next property that they want to buy. Or maybe they're moving out of town for a job relocation. Maybe they're selling and they're going to go ahead and rent. Whatever their strategy is okay, but the time frame is so imperative. And what we found with this meeting is the appraisers would value the property in a different way. There's actually 12 different valuation standpoints in order to evaluate real estate today. And that's an appraiser guideline. I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can probably Google it or something. And so that gave us a new insight because the appraisers were better at valuating property than us because of their guidelines. So we quickly adjusted our guidelines. Hey, our market, this was the mistake. The market was going up X% per month, and then there was such low inventory and there was such high demand, like we'd have 20 offers on a property, that even though the market wasn't necessarily going up with statistics, because there was a lag in that, and we weren't looking at the lag. We were looking at the sold properties, which was true, which was current, which was accurate data, but we weren't evaluating the properties at the time. And I'm talking all the 50 top brokers across the country, right? I'm not just talking about my team, I'm talking about everybody. And we were using the sold comps, and we were pricing between the sold comps and the pending comps, which was 100% correct. But the mistake was the new listings coming up on the marketplace, they would be $5,000, $10,000 higher. So there was a lag between the solds and the new listings, right? And the pendings were in the middle. And that lag was enough to cause the percentages to be off, even though all the data was correct. It would make the appraisers more correct, and 2, 3, 4% more correct than what we were doing. And in some cases, some markets, it was my market, but some markets it was like 10%. It was crazy. And some of that, and I'm using the percentage because these were at the time like $100,000, $79,000 listings. I think the lowest listing I ever sold was like $19,000 in the hood in Phoenix. And my wife did a occupancy check there, and the cop pulled her over. She was in her Audi A8L and said, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" And she's like, "Well, I had to do a vacancy check." And he's like, "Get the hell out of here, never come back." So we've sold some doozies in some really rough part of the neighborhoods. I'd rather sell luxury homes like we do today. So anyways, the reason why you want to have some of these conversations and see the time frame is so can you accurately price this to maximize the proceeds for that seller? And you need to convey that over the phone. And that's what you're doing. You're building trust over the phone in order to set that appointment. Then you're going to do it again while you're on that listing appointment. So hopefully this is helping you price property correctly. There's multiple stages, and that's why we use sold comps and pending comps and active comps. I like to do 3 of each, and then figure out where the market's going, how much inventory is in that neighborhood, how much inventory is in that zip code, how much in that city, and then also how many days on market is the average for that neighborhood, that zip code, and that city. And that's going to help you price property a lot better competitively and help your sellers win. So think about that as you're meeting with people. Okay, so I want you to really understand the more questions that you ask build more trust. And one of those reasons is that sellers are risk adverse. They want to make sure that they're making the right decision to hire you, that you can actually accomplish what you say you're going to do. They're banking on what you say you're going to do. So if you're telling them that you're the best marketer in the world, that you're going to price their property appropriately, and you're going to get offers in the next 7 to 10 days, well, they're expecting that. You've got to follow through. And so some of those things you should probably never promise, because, unless the market's really hot. But in a stabilized market where there's no seller advantage or buyer's advantage in the marketplace, and the average days on market are 45, then you might want to price it accordingly to get those offers and to fulfill those promises that you made. Now, things that will help you land more listing appointments will be if you're a neighborhood expert, right? So if you're farming neighborhoods, you've worked that neighborhood for years, or you picked a new neighborhood, you're going to go down in that neighborhood, you're going to view everything on the marketplace, and for the next 2-3 months, you can become a neighborhood expert in that short amount of time. And as long as you are, or you believe you are because you've visited those homes and you've researched the data, then you could probably market yourself as a neighborhood expert. That holds a lot of weight in the marketplace when you're talking to sellers. So remember, they're a risk adverse decision. So you'll lower the risk, the higher chances of you getting that business. You've got to make them feel comfortable and confident that you're the right agent for the job of selling their home. Always remember that. I learned that from one of my mentors that probably made me millions of dollars, because I don't go into listing appointments unless I'm prepared. Or I'm going to do a 2-stage. I will say that. So if I didn't have a chance to ask all the questions, I'm going to tell the seller up front, hey, you know what? I'm going to see you on Thursday at 5 p.m. and hopefully today's Wednesday, at 5 p.m. on tomorrow night. And I'm not going to have a chance to go through everything because you have a custom home, and I want to make sure I see it prior to looking at everything else that's on the marketplace in the last 6 months worth of sales. Would it be okay if I met with you tomorrow at 5 o'clock so I can see the house? And then again the next morning. It's only going to take me a few hours to go through everything else. Or maybe it takes you 5 or 6 because you want to go see other listings. Then you want to set that second appointment up front. And that way they know it's a process, but every single time you talk to them, you've got to build confidence. Because if you don't build confidence, they're going to call the next person, or they're going to call the neighborhood expert or the luxury expert. But I promise you, most of those people are not going to see the competition houses that are on the marketplace, when they haven't been into all those houses, even though they're marketing themselves as a neighborhood expert. So if you want the advantage is, hey, I've been in this house, I've been in this house, I've been in this house, and this house compared to yours is either less or more because of this reason. This house over here is better or worse because of this reason and this reason. These are things that are going to build confidence with the sellers in your marketplace. Okay, so the next piece, one of the reasons that you lose listings is because of a personal referral. We've covered that, but I want to stress that to you. The confidence that you have to have in order to keep those listing appointments, and the professionalism that you have to have in order for the sellers to keep those listing appointments has to be top tier, right? That means as soon as, hopefully you do this while you're on the phone with them, but as soon as you hang up the phone with them, you send them an email confirming that you're going to meet with them tomorrow at 5 o'clock or later on this evening at 6 p.m. and you would like both decision makers to be there. I'd confirm that one twice. Along with, you could send them examples of your marketing, your action plan, your plan of action of what you do to successfully sell houses. Now, if it's custom home, I would send your standard one, and then I would also send another one with 1 through 5 that are going to be how you're going to target market buyers for their specific home, because there's a couple different strategies there. We'll do another video on that. They want trusted advisors. One of the things that I've always taught my agents, and this is how I was taught by my dad and my grandfather, is when you're on a listing presentation, you always tell the truth and have integrity when you do it. And what that means, and I'm not trying to be negative on this side, what that means is have integrity and stand firm on your price of where you think that property is going to sell, but be okay with adjusting it because of the market conditions, because of the time frame that the seller's wanting. Maybe they want to offer concessions. Maybe they are offering a courtesy to buyer brokers or something like that, right? Maybe there's a whole bunch of different things, but having integrity to tell them the truth, that means not buying the listing. And when I say buying the listing, there's a lot of agents out there that, let's just say the property's priced at $400,000, it should be priced at $400,000. And they're like, you know what, I think I can get $450,000 for this house. We should try $450,000 for this house. And that agent's knowing that the seller's interviewing 1 or 2 other agents and they're just getting the highest price right now, that's not telling the truth just to get the listing, right? And so having integrity of really saying, hey, this property is worth $400,000. The odds of us getting $450,000, it's not the marketplace for that. I think that if we could probably get that in an appreciating market for the next 6 months, then we could probably get that, or 3 months, depending on the stats and the trends. But for today's price, if we listed it today, I think this is where I'd price it at. If we're going to sell it within 60 days, maybe we need to price it at $420,000. We can offer 3% towards closing costs, an additional 3% towards a courtesy to buyer brokers or something. And so think about that, right? The incentives to maximize the sales price, they work, and that's what the home builders do, and that's what my corporate clients do, because they're holding up the real estate prices for the neighborhood. They're not giving away the houses. They'd rather have a strategy to sell between 30 and 120 days, close escrow within 120 days, and that is reasonable to most of my corporate clients, and that's also reasonable to most of my retail clients when I fully, and I do this every single time, when I fully inform them of the market conditions and I understand them. So think about that.
Okay, so let's say you're talking with a FSBO. They just listed their house, they're for sale by owner, and the market is like today's market. Hey, it's an average house, average condition, and the for sale by owner just wants to save some of the commission. That's okay, right? The odds of them selling their home, they think in their head it's 100%. It's not 100%, trust me. NAR stats, right, and they've tracked this for like 30 years or something, and I don't know the exact stat, but I want to say in the last few years, it's been like 8% that have actually successfully sold the house themselves, and typically it's like 3 to 5%. So even in a fast-paced, low inventory market, they're not being successful, and there's many, many reasons for that. Mostly, it's not full being the home is not fully being exposed to the complete market when they're just on a FSBO website. They're not using MLS. They don't have an agent, a strong listing agent representing them and taking those phone calls. There's a lot of emotions going on with them, and a lot of them underprice their home. I mean, tremendously, and a lot of them try to sell for a cash offer because they think it's easier, and they end up losing $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 when they could have listed with us, and we would have it would have cost them 5, 6, 7, 8% versus costing them $50,000, $60,000, sometimes $100,000 because they sold it to somebody as a cash offer, right? And 25% of the people out there want a cash offer. They don't take the cash offers. There's like 10% of the people out there that actually take the cash offers, and probably 6 to 8% actually successfully close escrow with that. But a FSBO, their pain point, is really the time frame that they're trying to move. Their pain point is they don't want to pay commission because all the real estate agents prior to you have failed them. And so the objective is not to fail them again. It's not to harass them continuously. It's really just one phone call per week for 6 to 8 weeks. And between week 4 and 8, depending on that FSBO, that's when they list their property with a real estate agent. Like, it's hard work. They realize it's hard work trying to sell the property yourself and field all the phone calls. And if everybody out there actually understands how hard it is, just list something on Facebook Marketplace, right? So like this sign right here, my Dream Life sign, if I was going to list that on Facebook Marketplace and I was going to say like $5, right? I probably paid 20 for it or something like that. But let's just say I was going to list it for $5, right? I just want it out of here. I want it sold. I'm going to move on. I'm going to buy another piece of art or something. I'm going to put it up there, and I'm going to list it today. So if I listed that today, you know what would happen? I'd have 40 or 50 Facebook messages, and I'd have 10 people that say they're going to come over and pick it up for the $5. And how many people do you think that would actually show up today? Probably 0. That's probably a good guesstimate. Maybe 1 if I'm lucky, but probably 0, right? And I've experienced this so many times. I've interviewed FSBOs all the time for this, and it's still the same way. Real estate agents make appointments, buyers make appointments, they cancel them last minute, they don't even cancel them. You're sitting there waiting, they're doing open houses and nobody shows up. It's always a problem, right? The strategies for FSBOs, just so you guys know, is they have flyers. They have a for sale by owner sign. Maybe they put it on the internet on FSBO.com or something. Well, by the way, the owner of FSBO.com ended up trying to sell his house for sale by owner. Well, he got tired of that nonsense and he listed with a real estate agent and then actually sold. So it was I think it was in New York City a few years ago. So if that doesn't share anything with you, then I don't know what will. All right, so we talked a lot about sellers and building that confidence over the phone with those sellers prior to the appointment. And so what I also like to do is I'm pulling the comps. I want to see those properties, if at all possible, prior to going to that property. You really need to spend probably 2 hours, 3 hours in some cases in some of the properties that we list in San Diego, some of the neighborhoods, they're built in the 20s. So there'd be the house built in the 20s, third generation house that's never been listed, and it's dilapidated or whatever, and the lot's huge. Well, it's hard to really get a good valuation on that property when it's next to a brand new construction home, or and then 2 streets over there's mobile homes in there. So the hodgepodge of it, it's not all cookie cutter houses. That's why I always say it's a lot more fun to sell real estate in some markets than others. It's a lot easier by doing that. So you're talking to clients, you're setting the appointment, you're proving that you're professional, you're emailing them examples of your marketing, you're emailing them the confirmation of the appointment and how you're doing business. I would also email them testimonials or link to your Google testimonials. I would also kind of, set the expectations for the meeting. Hey, our meetings should not take any more than 15 minutes. Please review all of this marketing and develop some questions. And so I can help with that. They're going to have staging questions. So if you can put that into an email up front, that could help. But they're calling you over to make sure that the house is in a ready to list professional manner so people can come through the house. So staging questions may just happen while you're there. But if you give them good information from your professional stager, that'd be good. Potentially your lender information. Hey, here's one of my referrals. He's also my lender. So if you're going to buy a house over in this marketplace or in town and you don't have a lender already, please get to know him. He's really good. I use him myself or her, however that is going to go on. And then, I think it all has to be professional. If you're going to drive a long distance, like say 45 minutes or an hour through traffic to go list somebody's house, then I think a confirmation, a verbal confirmation, a phone call or a text or something is super important. I also think a video is like, hey, I'm looking forward to a video text, looking forward to meeting you tomorrow at 2:00. And please take a moment to look at all the marketing material that I emailed you. So having 2, 3, 4 pieces of content sent to them prior to meeting in a 24 to 48 hour period or longer is imperative. The communication has to be on point for them to keep that meeting. Remember, it's what's in it for them. Is this the right agent for the job of selling my home? Are they professional? Are they good at communicating the way I like to be communicated with? Did they ask me enough pre-qualification questions in order to build up my confidence that they know what they're doing? They're seem like they got it going on. And then they're going to check you out on social media, so you might as well send them your links. It's super important. And make sure your testimonials, I want to stress that so much. People will hire because of referral, right? And they will hire by reading testimonials, and they will hire as long as you don't say anything stupid on the appointment. And they will hire you if you're dressed professionally, you have a professional image when you show up, and you keep it business. Build a relationship, the friendships and all that stuff after you serve them in a professional manner. Okay. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this has been informative. This is Brent Conley. Have a great day.